Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Curious is Better podcast. Again, I'm Craig Lamb with Innovative. And today with me, I have Karson Madden from Ardent Learning. Thanks for joining, Carson. Uh,
Thanks for having me.
this topic you and I have discussed before, and I'm super stoked about it because I think it's kind of like a baseline discussion, but it's something that comes up all the time. We're talking about how you identify issues that have technical solutions because you're in tech, I'm in tech, how they have technical, present problems that present themselves with technical opportunity, and then how you kind of work through that process. So we'll start first because you work with a company that has technical problems and they bring them to you. You're hired specifically for that. So how do you identify how a problem's brought to you? How do you identify opportunities within those problems?
Yeah, so I mean, it changes for every single person, which is great with tech. Is when you have 50 different platforms that are all an LMS, they all do one thing, but the way that they ingest or send out data, it's completely different through each one of them, which is a big growing pain for vendors that are trying to work with all these different technologies and trying to make everything into one ecosystem. And I feel like that's where I'm seeing a lot of clients that are coming to us and saying, we have this vendor does this thing, we have this vendor does this thing. Can we just have it all in one place? Like we're tired of, telling Paul to tell Peter to tell Jake to do something, and it just never, lost in translation. So I think, the best answer you're going to get probably for any question you ask, a tech guy about, he'll say it depends. It depends is the universal answer for approaching, because there's so many different steps that you take, and then the more that you get like further in your career, the more that you instantly just see that those steps as a mental picture. So you're just instantly like, okay, yeah, we'll do this, 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 and this. Right.
So let's take it back. And so someone comes, the client comes to you and they say, okay, we'll use aggregation as an opportunity. It's like, how do you go about at Arden? How do you go about defining what that problem is? Because usually it comes from either a user, right? Or it might come from an analyst or something where the problem is just kind of like acutely focused on whatever that one thing is. But it could be a broader issue, right? It could be symptomatic or something broader. What methods do you use to define the size and scope of a problem?
There's a bunch of different ways you can approach it. Like I usually tend to fall into the waterfall style, where I just gather every single requirement, whether I think I need it or not, or whether I think the client would be interested in it, in it or not, and just dump it all and make it 40 pages of just notes and crappy writing. And then I will refine it before I hand it off to somebody else. So that's kind of like how my brain works, is I want everything in front of me, and I want to do like deep research and see everything. And then that's when things start coming together. Like the more that I work on something, the more I can say, actually, we don't even need the solution that I was thinking was going to be amazing. We can just do this. But I mean, what it all comes down to, creative problem solving is working with a client and working with their budget and working within the confines of maybe bad decisions that they made last year that they are still, beholden to. They picked a wrong platform, wrong vendor, they picked a wrong way to operate certain whatever it is, data pipeline, data flow, or just basic like metrics gathering. It's not sustainable to say, okay, your client, you have all these things in place. We have the best prescription for that. So we diagnose everything. We're going to take all this stuff that you have, get away, and we'll replace it with this one thing, and it'll fix everything. That never happens. So I don't know if in college they're supposed to tell you that once you diagnose a problem, you say, okay, here it is. It's literally never happened in my career where I could say, let's just burn it down and start again. It's never cost feasible. So you have to be pragmatic about it, which is, The Pragmatic Programmer is one of my favorite books of all time, because it talks about the business side of programming.
You said something interesting I want to circle back to, but I guess I never looked at these terms because, I mean, uh, Arden's been a client of Invaders for years. We worked with you guys for years. I had a bunch of different stuff that they went through customizations on, but all the conversations, I guess, because you said I start with Waterfall. I guess every conversation when you're like starting to document is Waterfall because and like I'm hella older than you. We used to do everything Waterfall, and we've been Agile now for like 15 years, and we promote it. And it's worked great. Love Agile. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. But when every conversation starts Waterfall, for sure. And I guess I have to like kind of put that in my as far as like understanding how conversations go, right? Because you kind of define this huge global view, then you just start barfing out requirements, right? And that really is that old waterfall technique. But then you also did say one of the things I thought you said was interesting too is that when you start distilling, because it could get back down to some other decision that they made, either a feature that wasn't required, or, and this is the one thing I want to touch on, we go, they got with the wrong vendor, which could be either a SaaS product or they, you know, I don't know, picked an engineering company to do a customization that didn't work out well. What do you guys do at Ardent as far as vetting those things? It's like if it does get to a point where you go, oh, there's a tool that will fix that. I'm going to implement this tool, or I'm going to work with this company to build this thing out. How do you go about evaluating that stuff and matching it up against the problem?
I mean, you start with the known unknowns, right? So if you're in a known unknown scenario, as a tech person, I know when somebody comes to the table and says, I have this problem, I know generally that I have 6 different ways to attack it. But then when somebody has an unknown unknown, that's when, the discovery process is basically baked in to the SOW because we say, hey, we have to get our hands dirty to get in there and see what you guys are working with. We can't operate without access. We have all the ability to do so. We just need you guys to sign off on this. But it's hard for a company to, say, okay, we'll pay you $50,000 if you can figure it out and zero if you can't, right? Because then that puts us in a position where we want to put our, foot in, and get more client work and build that client footprint by taking a little bit of a hit. But where do you go when you put yourself in that position, which is something I've actually done recently to myself. I put myself in that position.
So you raise a really good issue because we're talking about like how do you know during that project that things are going well? We talked about it's like if someone presented you with that risk of I'll give you $50,000 if it works, I'll give you zero. It's not. No one's going to shoulder that. So like what either variables or triggers or tools or observations do you use or have where you can tell if a project's going well once you're in it?
From a project management standpoint, I love Gantt charts or Gantt charts. So you can map out, this feature is going to take 2 days to do, and then the next one is going to be 2 more days from, a separate department maybe or a separate dev team. And then you just kind of can see, 1 month, 2 months, in a quarter view, what we've done and what's going well, what's not going well, what's being blocked by something else. So I'm really visual with that stuff. I struggle with staying really organized with just like a Google Doc, like you need
For
more
sure.
power than that.
There's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. But, it's hard because when technical project management, we're developers as well. So we're players and we're coaches. So most of the time we coach, but, when things got to get done, we'll get our hands dirty and we'll code it ourselves if we need to, or set something up ourselves.
Yeah, so that I'm with you on that for project cadence, right? That if things fall out of cadence, then there's definitely an indicator that things need to be adjusted. What about requirements overlaps or feature and function overlaps, or not just redundancies but obsolescence? Like that happens, right? Someone thinks it could be hugely important, and as you're working through the project, you go, "Oh, well, that replaces that, that replaces that, right? That replaces that." What about that? How do you what are the cues for you on that in that regard?
Um, it depends. I'm just going to keep saying that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, that
It's a good question though, because there's lots of different levers that you can pull. There's adoption rate, success and fail. There's risk utilization matrices that you can build out and say, um, if we can solve A, B, and C, then all these other issues will be fine. But what if we can't solve A, B, and C? Okay, option two. If we can't solve this, then this won't work, but this will work instead. So just like from really high level, it's really just organizing it in your brain until it makes sense. And tech is so funny because the more that it expands and there's new platforms, there's the AI revolution right now. Um, there's just always going to be legacy. There's going to be some dude out there with an Apache server that's running his 1996 website, and he'll probably still have that for 30 years, and then he'll want somebody to work on it, and you're like, you wrote this in COBOL? Is COBOL even is that even safe to use anymore? Like, come on, dude. So things like that. There's really just a sense of freedom when you just let them, let the client pivot, let the whatever happens. Because if you get stuck on perfection, you're going to lose. If you say, this is exactly what the client, to the client, this is exactly what you need to do, A, B, C, D, and go in this order, and it's going to cost this much, and that's going to fix all your problems. If they say, okay, cool, and then a week later they're like, actually, can we do something else, but we still want to work with you? What are you going to say? Are you going to say, well,
For
no,
sure you accommodate. Yeah,
peg
for
you?
sure for
So,
sure you accommodate.
so there's an ethics thing in there as well, where you try to balance, like, what's the best thing I can give to them that solves their issues, that works for them, not against them, and how do I feel good about that as a developer? So, how do I feel about it, like from a security compliance standpoint, right?
You're in a really interesting position, right? Because Ardent takes on clients, and even throughout your career, you take on clients where you have to build stuff for people. You have to accommodate their requests, and then you've solicited companies like ours to take on some other customizations inside of your technical ecosystem. So you've seen working with vendors, you've seen working with clients, and then your internal customers have it all. So you have like a very unique purview as far as the different types of users and requesters in the technical landscape, right? So my question is this: like, what do you think is often overlooked or underestimated or misunderstood when you're taking on technical projects? And maybe you could even cite an example from each, if that's how you look. But Karson, I only ask because it's like, you've mentioned that more than once too, is like, it never goes that way. Never and once in my career has it ever been like this perfection. But I tell you, I think that there's a lot of people that it's not optimism and it's not ignorance, but they're like, well, we've checked all the boxes. We've been diligent. There's no obstacles in the road, right? But there's something always happens. So I'll shut up. You talk.
um, I'm not thinking of a specific example. It's all kind of like a mishmash of the feeling that you get when you're getting close to completing a project, or you're doing updates on a project you've already completed. It's really just, for me, I think optimism is actually the way that I usually go, and also the let them theory. So you let them be. You take it away from yourself, because I feel like a lot of times in my career, it's been, okay, well, this is a perfect solution. If they were in my brain, they would know this is perfect and how great I am and how great of a technical solution architect I am. But you can't, no matter how well you sell yourself, sometimes uh, you can't bridge that gap. So, like, it's your question, like, how do we bridge that gap, or what have I done in the past to bridge it, or
I guess you'll have to change hats to answer that question, right? Because you've done it. You just said, like, when you're working with your clients, there's a let them be. There's like, you have to remove that pride of ownership or your agenda to make sure that they get what they need, right? But then you've also had to work with companies like ours and make sure that we stay on task and that we're doing what you asked us to do, right? And then again, you have your internals. So I guess you have to change hats to do that. It's not a loaded question, Karson. It's just, I don't think that everybody can enjoy the opportunity that you have in seeing it from all angles, right?
yes. And I've seen that before. in my teaching career, teaching technical web development, project management, I see people have that kind of thought process. But when you say unique, it's for me, it's part of my ego. It feels like a slight because I don't like being a master of none. I would love to be really, really, really good at one thing, and everybody comes to me about that one thing, and I just do it amazing.
No, but you
But
did. You're a
I'm,
problem solver.
I guess, I'm terminally curious, right? So I cannot, um, when I get stuck on a problem, I just keep attacking, and then it gets to the place where the problem is about 80% figured out, and I'm about 40% confident that that's scalable. And then I'll say, ah, that's nice. What can I work on next? So I have, all these unfinished projects, all these unfinished pathways of, things that I was really interested in because I'm far too curious. So I didn't mean that you
And
meant,
look, you just walked into another area of project, technical project management and consideration too. Is like, when do you know when to pull back too? It's to get if I have an 85% solve and a 45% 40% confidence in scalability or robustness, pick a time that lets you sleep at night. Like, are you in a position where you go, okay, I can pull back on this one because I have to focus my energy. How do you know? Because once you get momentum in something too, right? You can get blind by that momentum and you might shoot past at least the initial measurable ROI and either spend of money or time. Like, what indicators do you have in your world that let you know?
it is pure instinct. Early in my programming career, somebody told me done was better than perfect. And I've always thought that that was the case because, um, I could make, something, some implementation, some feature, maybe I'm working on, I could make it absolutely perfect and spend 6 weeks on it, or I could get it done in a day and then move on, and that's the whole, um, if we want to rag on agile, programming for a second, one of my qualms with agile programming is that kind of
It's never done.
mindset. It's never done, and then you're always 80%ing every single task. So then in
Sure.
6 years, the client doesn't have enough budget. Like you're gonna have to do a huge maintenance sweep, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, and listen, we've all done it too, is like you say agile, but if you followed agile academically, you wouldn't be in business. You just wouldn't. So it's like, it's kind of, I guess the proper term is agile esque, right? Because you have to be agile in your cycle, but you have to have some landing point, MVP, right? Or whatever your V1 is, right? So you can't be agile. Like, if anybody goes and investigates agile, and they can see that agile just basically means until you're dead. Like, they're not going to do that. No one's going to subscribe to that. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
I love agile for what it wants to be, if that helps. But like any project management process, there's flaws,
Yeah. Well, hey, let's wrap up with a good one too. So, like, for people that are listening, or they're embarking on technical initiatives, or they're, you know maybe facing some problems, is it, how do you, either at Ardent or your personal, your career path, like, how is ROI measured? Like, is it all spreadsheet, or like, is it adoption? Is it, like, are there other indicators for you that are overt measurable indicators for ROI on embarking on technical initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, KPIs are, the most important thing because that's what is going to sell the client, right? So if you say we can provide these KPIs or we can get to these KPIs, we can get to a certain amount of engagement and click rate in this, SMS program that you have working with, whatever. It's really important to make sure that the client is 100% on board. But I mean, that's obvious. What I do is I look for fun stuff. I look for opportunities to go above and beyond what the client has given me because, like I said, I'm curious and I'm bored most of the time. So, when I look at a problem and I'm like, ooh, you guys are doing this, it'd be really fun is we could do this. And then the client will be like, well, how would we do that? And then we go back and forth for 6 weeks, and then we add 50K to the SOW because I sold them on this little thing that we can do for that's very competitively priced because we have a scrappy team, and I'm doing a lot of the programming. So I'm a player and a coach in my role right now, which is really fun.
Yeah, I think you kind of end around into something too, is like differentiator is part of an ROI consideration. Is you go, I mean, I know you're being like light with it. It's like, so you know, it'd be fun, but you pitched them on it, they sold it, that means clearly like, well, no one else is doing that, or this really separates us, so like a differentiator in that ROI calculation. That makes sense.
Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head with ROI and how do we look at it because it is an ever changing thing. And like I said before, when you want to grow your footprint with a client, ROI doesn't matter because you're thinking 4 years from now, you know, what's this client going to look like? How much can we grow this in the next 4 years? Not, what hit are we taking this year? So
Yeah. Well, as always, Carson, it's fun chatting with you because I like to talk to nerd out on some of this stuff, and like your insights I think are really invaluable as far as, opportunity to kind of like consider these things because, there is, it's not just an AI renaissance. It's like just technology is just, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Um, it's like all encompassing. There's a better vocabulary word that's escaping me right
there's a bevy. Is a bevy a good word? No. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks again, Carson. This is Karson Madden from Ardent Learning. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the Curious is Better podcast, everybody.
Thanks.